Hey, Mazee, asante sana for joining us for yet another classic episode of the Weekend Edition. I'm your host, Dr. Kingori. Hii mwaka mazee, mwaka ya campaign, every week is literally on fire. Tonight we bring you the second part of the debate on spiritualism featuring Apostle T. Mwangi na Swiry Kano wenye tulisema watu wakuja na references. Wamekuja nazo tumalize hii maneno once and for all. And I will also be telling you some very good vibes about the Nokia T20 Tablet. Kama uko na watu hii and you like your sharing experience, iko na very good vibes as far as parental controls is concerned. Alafu it is hardened. Mnajua tu Nokia kampuni kubwa na kutengeneza durable products. This is all you can imagine as far as your unataka big screen kuwatch ma video zako pale kwenye weekend na kujibamba. I'll tell you about the features in a bit. Now we've not even talked about the battery life. Iko na 8200 milliamperes ya charge, which ile heavy use kama wewe mtu kutumia phone full time, uko gaming, uko movie, uko nini, can give you up to 7 hours. Ile heavy user kabisa. Kama wewe ni mild users, inaweza kukalisha mchana na usiku. I'll tell you more about that in a bit. But first, this week, former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo and the county Senator Kimani Wamatangi, both eyeing the top seat in the county, clashed at a rally. But what stood out for me was the strategy used by Kenya Kwanza Deputy President candidate Rigathi Gachagwa's idea to cool things down.
Unabadilisha Kiambu, wacha hiyo story yako. Mambo ndio yaweka kwa Goralia. Mimi ninakunyamazia ukaongea. Unakunyamazia ukaongea. Nani alikwambia ndio unaongea peke yako hapa bwana? Jamani bwana. Nataka nirekodi hero na usiniletee bwana. Usiniletee. Acha hiyo mzee. Naona sukari imepanda kidogo, si ndio? Tuteremsha temperature kidogo. Jagwa kuja weka wimbo kidogo. Mheshimiwa Charles Jagwa ukaweka wimbo kidogo, temperature iende chini. Hii ni hali ya kawaida, siko sawa sawa.
Unajua sijui kama mlinotice Gachagua kwanza aliingia Kisapere. Weka ngoma kidogo. But ati sukari imepanda, Gachagua sasa kaita Jagwa kuja impe ndio sukari ishuke. What a rhyme. Gachagua kaita Jagwa. Give me an award, guys. Give me an award. Anyway, let's not lose focus. Where did that even come from? Sukari imepanda, so you call Jagwa imbe. But they come to think of it, sukari imekuwa ikipanda tangu Jagwa ache kuimba, si ndio? Na si sukari kwanza, ni kila kitu man. Hey, Mazi, that was painful to watch. Where was Jagwa shukishie Madam Sukari? But that's hypothetical. What Gachagua meant was he called Jagwa, wakati wakilita Jagwa, he called him ndio apunguze hasira ya crowd. Has it ever occurred to you that kigeugeu can be used to cool temperatures like that? Ati babe, come on, maze. Sijui kwa nini Daily Nation wameni text good night honey pie. Alafu naambia usiende mbali nami. Anyway, this week also, Roots Party presidential candidate George Ojakoya has called on his supporters to boycott the Catholic Church after bishops advised their members to ignore the Bang Manifesto. Church imeambia waumini, Church imeambia waumini waachane na shash, alafu advocate wa shash akaambia wafuasi wake waachane na church. Now seemingly the church is not shaken. They were not shaken by Wajakoya's statement. Haters on the other hand claim that it would be interesting if Wajakoya supporters stop going to church and then in the next Pope election, smoke doesn't come out. Alafu to promote healthy living, a country, Romania, kuna country inaitwa Romania, wakona health, wakona promotion ya healthy living, a program where passengers can pay for bus fare by doing 20 squats. Can you imagine? Like ni kama kuenda stage ya Kayole, alafu unapiga press ups 10, unaingia matu, unaenda tao. Hiyo ndio fare yako. Can you imagine that? Why can't we have such brilliant ideas in Kenya? Maze unakutana na msee. Maze unashtuka. Jugush maze siku hizi umeunga bro, what's up? Ani shopping buda, ni shopping. Unajua siku hizi unga ya chapati ni 200 sit-ups. Now, without further ado, I need to tell you about the Nokia T20 Tablet. Kama we ni mse unapenda kutravel ama uwezi beba TV yako, hii ni TV yako ya kuenda raundi na iko na extra features. It has a very nice browsing experience. Screen yake pia ni kubwa size yake. Alafu the good thing is watu ogopanga hizi mamashini za screen kubwa kwa sababu ya ati inakula moto. Nokia wamekupakia 8200 milliamperes battery kwa hii kitu, so ukicharge na ijae fiti you can maximize to you, unautumia vizuri sana. Ni wapi siku hizi by the way unaweza toa time ya kuwatch movie for a whole day? This can actually give you that. Iko kwa market na iko na bei nafuu sana. Please visit page ya Nokia sahi, get the details kwa sababu labda kuna offer. Nisikuwe na kierere hapa ya kuambia bei alafu mpate muende huko mpate imeshuka na bei sijui ya pesa ngapi. You need to check this out. The Nokia T20 iko na features interesting sana other than battery. Wanakupatia na 3 years monthly check na hata update yake ya Android inakuja na Android 11 na update inakuja after every 2 years, so inamaanisha ni solid, ni dangamanya. You need to go sample. I think nimerogwa na language ya DJ Afro ku describe kitu kali, kitu noma, ni dangamanya. The T20 tablet, hata ukiangalia tu, I think I just need to give you a sample ujiangalilie. Of course Android very simple, very interesting user interface ya kutumia. Settings ni zile za kawaida but features ni za uzito. The plastic back, hata ukipea mtoi I think inaweza survive daily use, kuanguka nini. Very interesting features. Iko na front camera kwa wale wasio kupenda kufanya mamkutano za Zoom. You can do your meetings on this phone. Very nice emailing experience ukitaka kutype nini. Wase wa games pia bado iko na maneno. Of course Nokia wanajua mnapenda kuchill na kujientertain, na mnapenda ma feel good vibes. Speaker zake pia ziko sawa, so you can sample them, na nimesema inakuja kwa bei nafuu. It could be a very nice backup for your walk around office. Is the Nokia T20 tablet. Please check it out, na bei yake pia inakufavor sana. So it comes with a family link yenye unaweza fanya parental controls, so from Google actually. Alafu hapo kwa charge never hit pause. Hiyo battery si mchezo. Wale wasi wanatambua magajes wanajua that's legit. That's it about that. Our conversation, spirituality. Hii debate imeconfuse watu sana. Watu wanaogopa kwenda heaven, watu wengine hawajui ni side gani wanaenda. Who's telling the truth? Last time we had this conversation na Swiry, Nyar, Kano na Apostle T, ilikuwa inakaa ni kama tukaachia. Ilikuwa inakaa ni kama pandei, hakuna mse anaweza sema conclusively tunaenda pande gani, but tuliambia wakuje na references. They have come back with references. So on the other end of this short commercial break, Swiry, Nyar, Kano and Apostle Mr. T Mwangi. See you guys in a bit. Yeah, maze, welcome back to the weekend edition. I'm your host, Dr. Kingori. In continuation ya conversation yenye you all agree due to public demand, tumeipeleka sasa the second phase ya verification of some of the contentious issues tulikuwa nayo. I hate how mimi ndio nakaanga kama kashetani kwa hizi conversation. Nakaanga ni kama sijui ama acha niseme the devil's advocate ndio ikuepoa. It's a conversation on spirituality, religion na kujua God. Wapi makofi ya Mr. T na Vivian hapa. One of the most interesting things ilistick kwa akili yangu from our last conversation ni ukisema Queen Sheba alikuwa okay, ni mimi nilisema but ilikuwa ni kama kupin kwa conversation umesema ati Queen of Sheba alikuwa msupa wa King Solomon, alafu hiyo ndio kidogo tukakuja mpaka Ethiopia Menelik or something. What was the reference ya hiyo story?
You know, the story is in the Bible and it starts from the story of Ethiopia, the modern day Ethiopia, you know, starts from very far, the times of Noah.
Yes.
You know, the sons that Noah had, the 3 sons that Noah had. And then you know about the curse of Ham. A lot of Christians know about the curse of Ham. This is why they tell you that black people are cursed, you know, are cursed people. Black people will be a slave to their brothers because we are the descendants of Ham. And then in the tree line of Ham, you find, this is a story that is in the Bible. Kwa family tree ya Ham, you find that alikuwa pia na sons wengine 4. And in these sons, you find that there is like the Mizrahi. We have from the name Misri. Mnajua Misri kwa Kiswahili. So that was one of the sons, and then there was Canaan, and then there was Cush. Okay? Now from Cush, and then there was another son called Put or something. So from Cush was now you know, the kingdom of Kush that exists in modern day Sudan. Okay, so when you read the Bible, it says that this sun, when Misri is a representation of the sun that went and settled in Egypt, and then Cush is a representation, you know, Cush is even mentioned in the Bible 52 times. Cush is the representation of the sun that went and settled in Cush. And then from the kingdom of Cush, it later became the what? Axum. You understand? It later became the Axum under the reign of Queen Makeda, okay? Which is the Queen Sheba. Sheba means wisdom, the queen of wisdom. Sheba was the one in charge of the trade routes in Ethiopia. Okay? Queen Sheba went looking for wisdom. She's called Queen Sheba because she's the queen of wisdom. She was looking for wisdom. Who is the father of wisdom in the Bible? It was Solomon. Queen Sheba was with Solomon, you know. They were together. And then they gave birth to a son. You understand? And this is the son that carried the empire of Ethiopia. One of the reasons why Ethiopia was never colonized. There's a way in which from this, the curse of Ham, you know, when black people, curse of Ham was used as an excuse for greed by Europeans and Arabs, okay? So that they could have cheap slaves. Okay. A lot, last time Pastor T was saying that even, you know, black people sold their people into slavery. This is the divide and rule that has been used by Europeans since day one. Okay. To divide and rule people, to tell you that your people sold you into slavery. But slavery started from the curse of Ham. Okay. That was the excuse for greed. And that curse, that same curse, is the one that moved from slavery into capitalism. This system is all connected from the roots. Okay. And if you want to uproot it, you have to uproot it from the roots.
Okay. Sawa,
yes.
Sawa.
Yeah.
I'm going to fikiria nalaaniwa. But then, just to be clear, the tribe of Kush has nothing to do with Man Kush. Alafu kwanza sijui kama utaanza na kutuambia from what Vivian has said, ama sisi black people are descendants of Ham. Like that's how we always find ourselves in Ham's way. Like how hebu tuanzie hapo kwa relationship ya black people na descendants ya Ham. Yes.
Number one, let me say history is very wide and the history of humanity keeps on changing every now and then.
Yes.
Number two, history can be read with broken spectacles. That means you can decide to take one side of history to pursue a certain narrative. Generally, Kush in the Bible represents Africa. That is, anytime you come across the name Kush, it is a picture of Africa. Remember the concept of Sudan and the demarcations we have today in Africa, they are colonial in nature, the boundaries that we have. So Kush was just a general terrain. When you study Christianity and Africanism, you'll discover that Christianity existed in Africa before it even existed in Europe. It was in the era of Constantine that Christianity penetrated in Europe, and what she has mentioned, very powerful. That's where now Christianity was embraced by the people we call the white supremacists, who now twisted the teachings of Scripture to purport slavery. Exactly. But the history of slavery was way back in our African culture, because in the kingdoms, people used to serve as slaves. And anytime you went to war and won a certain community, you took the people back at home as slaves. When you go to Ghana, there is a port called the Gate of No Return. From Ghana interior, the white people did not know the interior of the community. So the people that penetrated in the interiors of Africa were fellow Africans. And it was the chiefs and our fellow Africans that became the middlemen in selling of slaves. And when you entered in that port and that Gate of No Return, it was the whites and the Arabs. By the way, Arabs and the whites, the European, became the biggest market of slave trade. So when we talk about racism or discrimination, we were our enemy of ourselves. Now, when they landed in Europe because of economic powers, the slaves became an asset. And it is believed African contributed trillions of dollars in free human resource to build the economy of the West. And so through there, the Bible was mishandled. And when you read history, you have to be genuine, because there are dark ages of what we call Christianity. And it is in the dark ages of Christianity that now atheism takes and begins now to purport. But that is between 15th, 16th, 17th century, where they tried now to use what she's calling the concept of Ham
as an oppressed and a caste people, and Ham being a black person. But now when we go, there was an awakening in the 19th century in America. And the concept of we are all created in the image of God, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither black nor white, became the concept. And they argued a lot on the letters of Paul. The book of Philemon was literally written to one man called Philemon to absorb back Philemon, not as a slave, but as a brother, meaning that the Bible never supported slavery. Number two, grammar keeps on evolving. Whatever we may call employment today, in 100 years might sound as slavery. So we need to come back to the context, the days, and why this terminology of slaves were being used, and the cultural setting of the day. So Christianity has a lot of roots in Africa than it has a lot of roots in Europe. It's only that when it was adopted by European supremacists, now they made it to look like a white religion. That is where now we began to have concepts like the devil is black and angels are white.
First of all, let me tell you what I stand for. The fact that is when black people don't even know that black people are in the Bible. A lot of black people don't know that the Bible is a story that is actually talking about black people a lot. And why? You should sit back and ask yourself, why don't black people know that black people are in the Bible? And this one takes us back, and this is why I want to tell you, there's a book called Africa and the Bible by Dr. Yamauchi. He's explaining the concept of even as above, so below. He's explaining the concept of African misinterpretation of the Bible so much to remove black people. When you check Jeremiah 14 verse 2, go and check Jeremiah 14 verse 2 from the modern translated versions of the Bible and the older Bibles before the modern translation. You'll find that they've removed the word black. Wametoa the word black out of it. Instead of saying that the people who bowed unto the ground upon the gates of Jerusalem, they were black. King James Version, original King James Version says that. But then when you go to, New Living, this thing that they used to teach kids in school, they will talk about the people. They replace the word black with people.
Could it be because the Bible is not racist? The Bible
No.
does not.
Let me tell you, as black people, do not allow other people to take your story. It is our history. But when you allow it to be his story, that is why you find, even kwa matatu hapa Tao, faces za Yesu ni white. And a Chinese God looks like a Chinese. A black God looks like a black person. An Indian God looks like an Indian person. And a white God looks like a white person. And we are all diverse, but then we have all the oneness. Because we are different versions of God trying to experience itself in human form. And so, the moment you see that your God looks like another person, that is the moment you start looking down on yourself.
In the book of Acts, the Bible talks about the gathering of people that were outside Pentecost. Now, Pentecost was the Feast of Harvest, which was Judaized in nature. There are three people that were there. Number one, the Gentiles were there, the Jews were there, and the only way to become a Jew, you became apostolite Jew, meaning that a Gentile can convert into Judaism, but they were considered to be apostolite. We also had Jews in the diaspora, meaning that they were out of the Judaism kingdom and they were out in the diaspora. And one of the people that really exercised Judaism and whereby there was the form of Christianity, Ethiopia was one of them. Now the Queen of Sheba went to visit Solomon on a state visit, and she carried the spices, not the wisdom. The Bible says the wisdom of Solomon was so admirable. She took spices and went to see the wisdom. And
she kidogo too.
Yes.
Still on the same point.
Yes.
Queen of Sheba,
yes,
confirmed,
yes,
went to visit Solomon.
Yes, it is in the Bible.
You know Solomon's reputation.
Yes. Now, and I'll explain that. I'll explain that. The reason why Solomon had 1,700 concubines and 300 wives, there is something called the Haran. This is cultural. When you look at the story of Esther, there are people who went to present themselves before the king. And anyone that encountered the king, whether sexual or just meeting the king, you became the king's concubine. That encounter, no one could marry you. Anyone that met the king in the secret chamber. So we are not told of any secret chamber. This was a state visit. Solomon receiving a person of this caliber, we couldn't understand how this interaction could happen.
Just
now,
meeting?
Yes, meeting.
You are my wife.
Yes.
Evil.
No. Now, this is what happens. Where there are gaps in history, and even in the line of academia, people speculate. Now, speculations are not facts. Speculation is opinions of men. Now, the concept of Solomon sleeping with the Queen of Sheba is speculation. And that concept came when now the black people began to identify with what they call the black Messiah. Prophecy said, out of the root of David shall arise a king. And so the root of David was Solomon. And so now they had to connect Solomon with the Queen of Sheba and come now connect to the Queen of Sheba and connect her to Menelik all the way to Haile Selassie. And Haile Selassie now became like the black Messiah, and he was celebrated. And this concept came through the Nembra Kebra, which is the Jamaican Bible that was written by one of the advocates of Jamaican spiritualism.
Yes.
And the reason why the Haile Selassie is called the King of Kings is because among all the kings of Africa, he was the only king that was not colonized.
The first book that I will recommend to you to be your Bible even, The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. Read that book. Read that book, and in the first pages of that book, Chancellor Williams explained to us the white man's divide and rule technique. And wait, you see this divide and rule technique? It is the one that is even in our education systems. The education system is brought there as a system to separate the older generation from the newer generation. And this is why educated people cannot even listen to the old medicine men of Africa. Ancestors are dying with our true, authentic history. Learned people don't want to teach their children their vernacular, the language of their grandfathers and their forefathers. They want to identify with English, French, Spanish. You know, people here in Lavington are teaching their children the white man's language, and they don't want to associate with their ancestral language when the Agikuyu language, the Bantu language, has been here even before the English language. So you are giving up your own ancient treasures for a white man's.
So even
and that is why you took even his religion, his God, and all his ways.
Even as Jesus was being crucified, there were hizi tribes zingine Wasapere walikuwa tu mahali. The other tribes were around. So also you recommend Chancellor Williams' book, even like a Bible. You believe in the Bible, right?
Yes, I believe in the Bible as a book that is subject to scholarly scrutiny.
Thank you. And why do you trust Chancellor William more than the person who wrote the Bible?
Different people wrote the Bible, okay? Human beings, just like us, who were inspired by the Spirit of God.
Yes,
Did Spirit of God stop inspiring people?
Okay, so Chancellor William was also inspired by God to write his book.
Yes, I believe, because he's talking about what is happening in the society today. He's telling us, you know, this education, literate people, you've seen intellectuals, you've seen the elites, the academias. They are there, you know, they don't want to listen to our old tradition. And that is what the white man is trying to do. Divide and rule. Divide the older generation and rule the newer generation so that they don't listen to each other.
She has addressed a very important issue about our ancient medical value. Malaria used to kill a very big population. Life expectancy in the early civilizations was around 50 years because of very basic diseases like hygiene, you know, purification of water. The evolution of science, which is, we might call it Western education, has really helped a lot in terms of sorting a few things. Today we can deal with malaria, we can deal with so many diseases because we were also limited in terms of our African medicinal kind of whatever we're giving. When we connected medicine and spirituality, it is another conversation. Now, when you go to the different cultures, even in Africa, because we borrow a lot from the Egyptian civilization, that is where the Kemetic teachings come from, we borrow a lot. The deities there had the concept of what we call, they had carnation. They will take bodily forms and appear to men. That's why you go to the engraving, they will draw something. Egypt is known for the many deities they used to worship. So when we look at the deities and now come to deep spirituality, we begin to see that when the scripture talks about the fallen angels, remember, angels are creatures, they have a body. They are not omnipresent, they are not omniscience, and they are not omnipotent. The devil is a creature. He cannot be in all the world at the same time. He's localized because he's a created creature.
You've said something I've always suspected, that the devil is not omnipresent. And like I've always suspected, he spends most of the time in Juja. Ama ni mimi nimesikia zangu.
This is what happens here. The devil is very governmental and structural. The book of Ephesians captures it. I need to understand, by the time Paul is writing in Ephesians, he had already conquered the goddess of Ephesus by the name of Artemis or Diana. This was a goddess presented through an image, and she was multi-breasted. Because I told you, the fallen... Multi-breasted. She had many breasts, and she was feminine in nature. She was Artemis or Diana, depending whether you're using the Greek or the Jewish word. And people used to worship those idols. You come to our African culture, we have an image for these deities because they are visible. These fallen angels are visible. They have demons that serve under them. So what happens is that there is a very structural system, and that's what Paul gives in the book of Ephesians 6. And he says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of wickedness in the heavenly places, and against authorities. That is what we call the demonic rank.
By the way, before tuanze, and I mentioned, mtu alisema hii conversation
haiwezisha. Mimi nitasema hivi, the conversation needs to end.
But leo imeisha.
The conversation, the conversation can only end
watu waenda wafanye research
at the Mount of Carmel. Let the real God answer by fire. That's where it is. Because when revivals came, our forefathers who are more spiritual understood it, surrendered their own witchcraft under the altars of Yahweh. When the real fire of revival hits Kenya, people will know who the real God is. They will face the moon. It can't help them.
But don't wait. Start doing the work. Start doing research. Start knowing yourself.
And
start doing the work now.
I'm a revivalist, and I know before I die, the real fire of God will hit Kenya.
Sawa sawa, wapi makofi yao? I was so tempted to ask Vivian and Pastor T to tell us their perspective of what happens when people die, but I think maybe mtatuambia what you think about this conversation kama tumeikava comprehensively enough. But that said, that's it for the weekend edition. See you next week. My name is Dr. Kingori.